Ladies and gentlemen, Psalms 18. I'll be reading a pretty long piece of scripture, but let's go with it. It is God that clothes me with strength and makes my way perfect. He makes my feet like hinds' feet and sets me upon my high places. He teaches my hands to war, so that a bow of steel is broken by my arms. You have also given me the shield of your salvation, and your right hand has held me up, and your gentleness has made me great. You have enlarged my steps under me, that my feet will not slip. I have pursued my enemies and overtaken them. Neither did I turn again till they were consumed. I have wounded them, that they are not able to rise. They have fallen under my feet. For you have clothed me with strength for battle. You have subdued under me those that rose up against me. You have also given me the necks of my enemies, that I might destroy them that hate me. They cried, but there was none to save them. They cried even unto the Lord, but he did not answer them. Then did I beat them small as the dust before the wind, and I cast them out as dirt in the streets. You have delivered me from the strivings of people, and you have made me the head of the heathen. A people whom I have not known shall serve me. As soon as they heard of me, they shall obey me. The strangers shall submit themselves unto me. The strangers shall fade away and be afraid out of their close places. The Lord lives, and blessed be my rock, and let the Lord of my salvation be exalted. For it is God that has avenged me, and subdued the people under me. He has delivered me from my enemies. Yes, he lifts me up above those that rise up against me. You have delivered me from the violent man. Therefore will I give thanks unto you, O Lord, among the heathen, and sing praises unto your name. Great deliverance have I been given, and mercy has been shown unto me, to me and my seed forevermore. Now, this is really King David speaking, and he's a king. And so, when you hear me and I, it's really David speaking here. He is the great forefather of Jesus. And this is also with respect to Jesus. This is Jesus speaking here as well. But it's not just Jesus, it's anyone who is a follower of Jesus, that is the follower of love, can speak very much the same way. See, there's a beginning and an end to everything under the sun. And in the end, the judgment will come. We were talking about justice and judgment. And the judgment is such that the world will be cleansed by fire. It'll be destroyed, the world we know. And everything that we know in this world will be destroyed by fire. And all of our enemies, both spiritual enemies, that is, things like greed and hatred and envy and all of these characteristics or virtues or traits will be destroyed, and the wicked will be destroyed. But even so, even in life, because of karma and causality and yin and yang and retribution and what we also know as reciprocity, whatever you sow you reap, our enemies will be destroyed that way as well. For anybody who seeks to do evil in the world basically is doing it against their own selves. I'll move on this topic some other time, but for now I just want to go into something much more positive. Wonder Woman. And her box office now stands at $821 million, $625,127. That means it's under $100,000. In fact, it's closer to $75,000 away from passing Sam Raimi's Spider-Man and becoming the #1 grossing superhero origin film of all time. I'm looking forward to that. So it's creeping closer and closer to that mark. Maybe it'll reach it, maybe it won't. We'll see. Today's the 24th of October. That was a total as of the 22nd. And I'm very happy and proud for what Patty Jenkins has done. She has done a remarkable job with Wonder Woman. And there is no end to my compliments of her as director of the film. I want to go into a associated film that I recommended some people go watch, and now I have to kind of take back my recommendation. I'll tell you why. The first person to alert me to the fact that this movie is not factually, it's not really grounded fully in truth, even though it says it's finding the true story of Wonder Woman, was John King. A shout out to you, John. Once again, great contributor to my channel. Gives a lot of great facts and a lot of stuff on the DCEU. Really appreciate you being on my channel. So just a shout out to him. This is an article here by Angela Robinson to the Hollywood Reporter, or through the Hollywood Reporter. She is in the guest column, and she wrote this article on Professor Marston, director, on finding the true story of Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman's creator. Guest column, okay? I'm going to cite a couple things in there, and then I'm going to go to another article in the Hollywood Reporter as well, which was done by Christie Marston, who is the great, she's a great granddaughter, or she's the granddaughter, sorry, of Professor Marston from the Marston family, and she has a rebuttal to that. So let's get into it. First of all, let's start with Angela Robinson, who was the person who actually directed Marston and the Wonder Woman. That was the feature. And she goes on to say the following. So let's get into it right now. So Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman. So Angela Robinson's film tells the love story of William Moulton Marston and two women who inspired him, using scholarship that found the three were in a polyamorous relationship. Okay? So it's really a love story she was actually telling, and not necessarily the story of the formation of Wonder Woman and how William Moulton Marston fit into that equation, how Elizabeth and Olive fit into that equation. So let's get on with it. Writer-director Angela Robinson's film, Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman, tells the story of the relationship between Wonder Woman creator William Moulton Marston, his wife Elizabeth Holloway Marston, and grad student Olive Byrne. It has been well established that William had an extramarital relationship with Byrne, but as Robinson got into researching the story, she found evidence that all three had a relationship. While a number of Wonder Woman scholars have also agreed with this point, the Marston granddaughter, Christie Marston, has publicly disputed the idea that Elizabeth Marston and Byrne had a romantic relationship. You can read her thoughts, and I will, in the guest column below. Robinson explains why she feels it was important to tell the love story the way she did. So here it is. I spent 8 years bringing Professor Marston and Wonder Woman to the screen. The film is about a man who created Wonder Woman and the two women in his life that inspired one of the most iconic, indelible superheroes of her time. When I first learned of the story, it looked like a story of a man who had a wife and a mistress. And then I came across one core sentence. Olive and Elizabeth lived together for 38 years after Marston died. And that was the moment I realized I was writing a love story. Three people came together and formed a family. Marston drew inspiration out of this beautiful, complicated life. My film is based on a true story. I conducted first-hand research of the film. I read everything there is to read on the subject, including all of William Moulton Marston's writings. There are some known facts about Marston and his family. Like any work based on history, I took creative license to best tell the story from my own personal understanding and point of view. That's very important to remember. We'll go on. I very much understand if the Marston family, friends, or fans have issues with the liberties I took to craft this film. Notice she said liberties. That is fair game. But I am alarmed that some of the intense focus of criticism is around my portrayal of Olive and Elizabeth as bisexual, and their relationship with William Moulton Marston as polyamorous. I did not arrive at that conclusion in a vacuum. It was not wishful thinking. There were ample evidence to support this interpretation, and many Wonder Woman scholars agree with me. As Noah Bertlarsky writes in his article on my film, Why have people been so reticent about acknowledging that Elizabeth and Olive were lovers, when Elizabeth and Olive were obviously lovers? In her 1990 book, The Epistemology of the Closet, Eve Sedgwick argues that the refusal to admit that figures in the past were gay is part of the way the dominant culture represses and denies homosexuality. At this very moment, issues of silence and shame are at the forefront of our cultural discussion, and it's important to look at how silencing happens, despite how good intentioned the motives are behind the silencing. The character of Wonder Woman has been whitewashed at many points throughout her history, and from my vantage, there has been systematic whitewashing of the Marstons' queerness. Now, that doesn't give evidence that the Marstons were queer. She's just making a statement. But what I would say is, her evidence that she garners from it is that they lived 38 years after the death of William Moulton Marston together. So that's her evidence, at least what she presents here, for her grounds for thinking they were lovers. I made several attempts to contact Marston's granddaughter, Christie Marston, both directly and through intermediaries, to screen the film and discuss it before it was released in theaters. Notice, she wanted her to screen the film. That means Christie Marston was in no way part of the actual consultation for the formation of the film. She just wanted her to screen the film. After the film was made, she wanted her to screen it. She did not respond to my efforts to connect, and to my knowledge, has not seen the film. I have a lot of compassion for the family because it must be alienating to see people you love depicted on screen, but I proudly stand by my interpretation. Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman portrays the Marstons and Olive Byrd with dignity, compassion, and respect. I hope at some point Christie Marston will come to understand these intentions. So that is her statement. I read it in its entirety. You can always go back and reread it in the Hollywood Reporter or re-watch this video. Now this is what Christie Marston rebuts, because this film was not approved by the Marstons. The Marstons did not approve the film. In fact, the Marstons came out straight and said that the film was a bunch of lies. Okay, let's go into it. William Moulton Marston's granddaughter disputes the love triangle portrayed by the film about the feminist professor and his two muses. Notice the word used here is feminist professor in this case, and his two muses. This is how Christie Moulton Marston looks at it. She said it was a very... Anyway, let's just go with her. Let's just listen to what she has to say. Christie Marston is the granddaughter of Wonder Woman creator William Moulton Marston and Elizabeth Holloway Marston, who are portrayed in the new film Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman. It has been established that William had a relationship with both his wife, Elizabeth, and Olive Byrne, who lived with them, but the film depicts Elizabeth Marston and Byrne, who continued to live together after William Moulton Marston's death, as also having had a sexual relationship, something others have also said there's evidence for, but with the creator's granddaughter takes issue with. You can write writer-director Angela Robinson's thoughts on crafting the story here. You can read it, and we already read that. The film, which stars Luke Evans, Rebecca Hall, and Bella Heathcote, has gotten strong reviews. Christie Marston declined to see the film, but she feels able to comment on 2 points in the film that were made clear from its trailers, as well as conversations she had with comic historians who had viewed the movie. Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman, heavily marketed as the true story in posters looking remarkably like this year's very successful Wonder Woman movie posters, is missing one major component usually associated with Wonder Woman: truth. This is Christie Marston speaking here. It was a rude surprise to see the film promoted as the true story. The filmmakers had no contact with the family or people who knew them. When questioned about that, writer-director Angela Robinson said in an interview with Vulture, "It was a conscious choice because I really wanted to have my own interpretation of the story." Remember, she said that people disputed her interpretation of the story. So she wasn't trying to really go with a truth-based story, but she decided to interpret whatever true fact she found, interpret it how she thought it would be. So that's very important to remember. The story of the film is about the relationship between Dr. William Moulton Marston, the creator of Wonder Woman comic in 1941, his wife Elizabeth, and one member of the extended family, Olive Byrne Richard, affectionately known as Dots. The film depicts Elizabeth and Dots as lovers, with William as a third party in their beds. It loosely, with no intention to fact, shows the Wonder Woman comic being created based upon the threesome's relationship. There are 2 major areas which are wrongly represented: the relationship with Wonder Woman's origin. While the imagery of sexual relationship can be overlooked, The alternative facts presented about Wonder Woman's origin are simply unacceptable. Let's take a closer look at the movie versus the history. Wonder Woman's origin. The film shows William coming up with an idea to pitch a story with a female hero to a comic book publisher. This is what the film says. The women roll their eyes. Elizabeth declares that nobody would ever publish it. See below. The reality and the deserved credit is very different. William was hired as a psych consultant for what would become DC Comics to help guide comics into the mainstream America. This is Christie Marston explaining what actually happened, which is what I actually read as well. Charlie Gaines, credited with inventing the modern comic book, semi-jokingly suggested to my grandfather that he write a comic. William went home and spoke to my grandmother, Elizabeth, about it that evening. She told him that it was fine to write a comic, but the hero must be a woman. Now, why that is important is because the film said that William was pitching an idea about a female hero comic to a book publisher. That is not true. William was actually hired by Charlie Gaines to write a comic. Well, Charlie Gaines, first of all, jokingly suggested a comic, and then William went and spoke to his wife about it, which would be her grandmother, Elizabeth. And it's Elizabeth who suggested that the comic be about a woman hero. Whereas the film clearly does not do that. All the research that so-called the director says she researched, she actually twisted the story, because clearly William here is trying to pitch a story of a female hero to a comic book publisher, which he didn't have to do because the publisher jokingly asked him to do a comic. And Elizabeth, and he was hired already. He was in another capacity and he was hired. And Elizabeth was the one that suggested it be a female hero. And here Elizabeth and Dots, they don't agree on that. Okay? They're like, that will never sell. So the movie is it's very contrary to the actual reality. So this is just one fact that this movie is not factual in. Okay? She goes on to explain, Elizabeth became the role model for Wonder Woman's character. And by the way, Christie Marston knows what Wonder Woman is. She always tells everyone Wonder Woman was her grandmother. And Dots was also part of the character of Wonder Woman as well, came off, and she's going to explain exactly how. So as Elizabeth became the role model for Wonder Woman's character, illustrator Harry Peter developed Wonder Woman's appearance, a medley of Dot's height and Graham's curves, wearing bracelets like those which had adorned Dot's wrists for many years. Editor Shirley Mayer suggests that Suprema the Wonder Woman be shortened to Wonder Woman, and the rest is comic book history. So she's explaining in detail, because she would know, because she has the history of Wonder Woman, and they go to her all the time, and she explains. And I did a piece on her explaining who Wonder Woman is, what Wonder Woman is about. They never consulted Christie Marston. They never consulted the family of who knew about Wonder Woman. They never consulted the people who knew Charles Marston and Elizabeth Hurley and Oliver Byrne. Never. Now, she goes on to the other point. The relationship. Robinson's basis for turning my grandmother and Dots into lovers may be that they continue to live together after William's death. The reality of the matter is that there really were not a lot of options at that immediate point in time. There were kids to feed and bills to pay. Graham worked while Dots directed the 4 kids. After the kids were at the house, 2 women chose to share a household. They were best friends, so close as to be sisters. For those assuming that a grandchild could or would not know anything about their grandmother's sex life, I should explain that my knowledge of my grandmother is not as a child, but as an adult. Mine is not the viewpoint of a small child with a sweet old grand lady grandmother. We had a very close relationship. Graham's 3 or 4 weeks visits several times a year gave us plenty of time to discuss all the woes of mankind. Silly societal taboos on sex and sexual preferences was a topic we covered thoroughly. Graham was a very open-minded and conversed clearly and freely. Graham was a firm believer that people should do whatever they damn well please, the only stipulation being maturity and consent. Graham and Dots not only lack that connectivity which couples have, but would have no reason to hide. As to arguments that the relationship as imagined by Robinson's film could possibly be true, I do agree that nobody can ever say what somebody else lived. I can never swear that she and Olive never connected sexually, but I can say with 99% certainty that they didn't. It's sad, really. It would have been a nice boon for them if they could have been lovers as well. Something that I come to realize over the past few days in the wake of the new film is just how much interest people have in the Marston family. People have been asking me about the family for years, but it's never really hit me until now. There's so many fans disappointed to learn that the film wasn't true. They had planned on seeing it to find out more about the family and how Wonder Woman came to exist. To all of the many who told me that I needed to get the true story out, I will say this. There's a project being pitched which I will endorse if it comes to fruition. It comes from many, many years of extensive research by a woman of integrity. Over her years of research, we have become good friends, and I trust her. Aside from her travels to hunt down papers and clues, my father and I have answered countless questions. She rarely does know the people involved, even the people she never actually met. Until now, I did not understand that people really wanted to know. Now I hope to see her years of research made public. I have come to know many Wonder Woman fans over the years. They're very diverse, yet so alike because they share Wonder Woman's values and attitude. They care about others and want the world to be a better place. Over the past few days, the Wonder Woman community has shown themselves to be every bit as staunchly dedicated to truth as their heroine. They rallied and shared and declared Lasso of Truth. Such wonderful people. Now, all of that other fluff there, I wasn't really so much interested in. But what I would say to you is this. That's why I was talking. I told John King even this. I said, I'm really not interested in kinky stories. Because Wonder Woman is so layered with so much. It has so much depth to her. That it's not just some guy pitching some comic book to people and his wife and other women laughing. His wife and Olive Byrne, they were actively involved in getting Marston to create this comic. Because Olive Byrne actually comes from a known feminist. She's actually the niece of a known feminist. Professor Marston was a known feminist. And Elizabeth Hurley was a known feminist. And they all actively were involved in different things. Even the guy who was actually drawing the comic for Wonder Woman was a known feminist. So these are things people... That's why I was surprised. I thought this movie was going to reveal something about feminism, but instead they go into this kinky bullshit, which is not even, if you think about it, it's not even factually based. It's based on, coincidentally, a fact that Olive Byrne and Elizabeth Hurley, they lived together. They were raising kids. Now, here's my thing. I don't know if they've had a bisexual relationship. I can't really say. I don't know if they were gay. I really don't know, okay? But there's no facts to support that they were gay or not. You get what I'm saying? And that's the thing I just don't understand. Hollywood pushes agendas, and it's very annoying when you try to cram an agenda down people's throats. Like, the critics, and they're all raving it because it's an agenda you're after. It's just like, I think of it like Ghostbusters, the recent Ghostbuster movie that came out. This agenda, they're trying to cram it. Sony again, trying to cram this agenda down people's throats. That's not... Why don't you... If you want to cram an agenda down, at least have it factually based. Look at Wonder Woman, the movie this year. It came from a fact... It came in the spirit of what Wonder Woman is. And so now, when you're preaching to people, they're listening because they actually embrace it. They didn't try to cram it down people's throats. And again, Sony's guilty of doing this again. Okay? They haven't learned their lesson. And this time they're using... bisexuality and gayness and gay stuff and try to cram it down people's throats. You see, the thing about me is I have a problem with you doing a story about people who happen to be gay or whatever and they form this icon came from there. I don't have a problem with it, but at least let it be grounded in some kind of fact. Be factual with your stuff. And she clearly, this director does not care about facts. Okay? Does not care about facts. She was just interested in writing a love story. It was really not a story about Wonder Woman in any way, shape, or form. And that annoys the crap out of me. You want to push this agenda. You know what I'm saying? My point is, whether I agree with the agenda or not, At least have your agenda grounded in facts. So obviously, with all the great critical accolades, the critics gonna play. They're gonna play themselves. Because they know it's up to no good. You look at all the movies that were. I give movies a chance. I give movies a chance. Ghostbusters was a hot pile of mess. It was a hot pile of mess. You know what I mean? Why would I go in? Why do the critics have to be so fake? Why do they have to play politics with things? And Sony doesn't seem to have learned their lesson. If this was a great story that gives us some evidence or information about the feminist movement back then and about Wonder Woman, I would not care that Olive Byrne and Elizabeth Hurley and Professor Marston were in some kinky relationship. It would be a part of the story. But if you make the sole focus of the story, it's supposed to be their love story, to push some kind of bisexual, gay agenda, because there's another movie coming out in Hollywood now with Armie Hammer and some young boy. We kissing this young boy, and it's gay stuff. If I know that that's what the movie's about, I just don't have to watch it. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not interested in that. I'm not like that. You know what I'm saying? But if the movie has something else, but if you're solely going to put it on a love relationship, this is a romance between two women or a romance between two men, I'm not interested. I'm not interested in that stuff. You know what I'm saying? If the movie's got other value, something else, I'll look at that stuff. I'll look at it just to see the other values in it. And that's why I told John King, I said, and John King told me this. He has me up and he said that this movie coming out is just pure lies. You know what I'm saying? And if it was at least true, you know what I'm saying? Or at least I knew it was true. It was based on facts. All right, so, me and John King, we kind of disputed a couple of things, like Wonder Woman and the Amazons, and that the Amazons weren't gay, and or queer or bisexual. The Amazons weren't known as that. That was my understanding of the Amazons. If they wanted the Amazons to be that, they just straight out come out and say so. You know what I'm saying? Because it's revolutionary, so they would just come out and say so. And no matter how much people say, well, but back in the day, they would have hide those things. No, because think about it this way. If they were going to hide that, then why are they even fighting for feminism? These people were straight up fighting for feminism, right? So, it was a bit subversive with the feminism thing too. So, I guess you could have that going on as well. But my point anyway is this. I never understood Wonder Woman and the Amazons to be that way. Right? And then it was confirmed on Saturday Night Live. Why are you trying to make Wonder Woman into somebody who's bisexual and gay? That's the thing I didn't get. Like, you can have variants of Wonder Woman being bisexual and gay. We had Flashpoint Paradox. You can even make a Wonder Woman who's gay. Ain't nobody. They made a black Wonder Woman. They call her Nubia, right? So it's not like it's a big thing. But my point is, as far as I know, Wonder Woman is not black, and she ain't gay. That's the understanding I had. You can make a gay Superman. You can make a gay Flash. You can make a gay any superhero. There are actually superheroes in DC Comics and in Marvel Comics which are gay. All right? So it's not like it's a problem. But my point is this. Because you can have any version of superhero. Trying to force history to change and skew it so that Wonder Woman was always gay, she was always queer, that's where you're stretching it. You know what I'm saying? The character wasn't always that way, but you can have a version of the character that's that. But obviously the general audience and the general public still wouldn't warm up to that fact. Some would have to warm up to it. That's all I'm saying. So that's all I got to say about that. And I just thought Christie Marston answered that. I don't know how many people have family, but you can have a perfectly fine relationship where you ain't got no sex, none of that, and you can be close to people. I have very close friends. I don't have no sexual relationship with them. You know what I'm saying? If anything, sexual relationship would spoil that relationship anyway. So it's like, you can be close, you can be good friends, but that's just not part of the equation. You know what I'm saying? And that's what you got to understand. And you could be gay even and be with somebody, but just because they the same gender as you, the same sex as you, doesn't mean, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't mean now that you gonna automatically like them. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like with a heterosexual relationship. If I see a woman, that doesn't mean I like her. It may not be my type. It may just not my personality and me wouldn't mesh like that. You know what I'm saying? You can be close to people, but not in that way. And so, you know, I don't know. I mean, I have aunts that lived together in the same house after their husbands died. They came together and they lived in the same house together because they needed company. You know what I'm saying? You know, if you've lived with somebody most of your life, then you just continue living with them. You're comfortable that way. It doesn't have to be sexual. It doesn't have to be, you know. So I don't know, man. I don't know. People these days, you know, when I heard Craig Rocker say, you know, there has to be, because in society, they're gay people. So therefore, if you had a whole island of Amazons, you gotta have gay people on that island. You know what I'm saying? And that doesn't make sense. You know, because what are you saying? The majority of them are gay? How would that happen? You know what I'm saying? I don't know, man. I try to make logical sense out of things. I'm not saying that some of the people there wouldn't have been gay. I wouldn't be surprised. You know, you got a certain percentage of people who are gay in any society or in any family or in any place. But what I'm saying is, simple logic does not suggest, you know, that just because you have a whole set of people who are the same sex or gender means that those people would automatically have to have sex because they're so thirsty. Man, I'm thirsty for sex. I don't got no man. I'm going to pick a woman. You know what I'm saying? It don't work like that. Life don't work like that. Besides that, the real Amazons, what they did was they would raid a city or town, or sometimes they go to war, and when they win the battle against whoever, they would take some of the men captive and have children with them. And if they were boy children, they would actually send them off as slaves or kill them. And the girl children would live. And that's how they build their culture and keep their culture alive. So this actually happened, by the way, folks. So just so people know, you know, if you really want to know the true story of things, then do your homework. Do your research at least. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying there ain't no gay people out here, or there weren't gay people back then, or these two women weren't gay in some way. Maybe they were gay. Who knows? Nobody really knows for certain, right? But from what Christie Marston's saying, how she could have talked with her grandmother about just about anything and everything. And if you look at Christie Marston and how she lives, you begin to realize Christie Marston's that kind of person. She had to be influenced by her grandmother. Then I probably take her word over Angela Robinson, who supposedly did research, but her research didn't translate onto the film in terms of what she put out there. So that's just my take on it. I don't know what you guys think. Leave your comments in the comment section below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You guys have a great one.